Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels. My guest today is the author of the ongoing series, or probably miniseries, but the current series, Huge Detective from Titan Comics, Mr. Adam Rose. Adam, how's it going?
It's going better this week than last week. Yeah, I'm like kind of in the
S-
heart
s-
of
some rain.
things. Yeah, rain is beyond
Adam's
welcome.
coming to us from the LA area. We pushed off the interview a week because, well, anybody who watches the news knows that LA's been an interesting place lately.
I mean, this is a joke, but it's also kind of true that now, like, wind gives me anxiety at the moment.
I get it. I get it.
Like a nice breeze in my face stresses me out. So,
Once you've been around like a real fire and learned that, oh, air is important to fire. I mean, because until you're around a bigger fire, you know, um, whether it's a big fire like you or even just a good campfire, our brain goes, you blow out a candle.
right.
So like our head is like, oh, wind is great. Except no, it's not.
No.
Because it's one of the three things that fire needs: oxygen, fuel, space.
So yes, I mean things are calmer now, that's for sure. But it's
Yeah,
been, and I appreciated you like pushing us to now because I mean, and I'll just say like getting to talk comics, getting to talk about what I love doing and reading and being a part of. I mean, it's just it is therapeutic. It is helpful. It's like
well, I'm glad I can be a help, and that leads to a perfect starting getting to know you question before we get into Huge Detective, which I definitely want to because, like I said, reread it this morning. It's got so many cool layers. Um, but give me kind of your comics history, not like strictly your professional history, but like, I mean, I love it when people remember the first comic book they bought or the one that made them fall in love. Take me through the years. If you fell away from comics for a while, came back, give me in as many words as you feel like your comics
yes,
journey.
I can go back all. I mean, it was like it was a Christmas 10-year-old birth, like my grandfather, who was like a construction guy, didn't have anything to do with comics, just, I don't know, decided to go to this local comic shop in Worcester, Massachusetts. And I see under the tree, and I was one of, at this point, like 25 grandkids. And
Okay.
like other grandkids got like trucks or, dolls or whatever. I had a box of comics and I opened it up and I remember still like a couple of the first comics that maybe he just told the guy, "Oh, get these for him." One was a Doctor Who comic,
Okay.
and I was a fan of the show at that point. And then the other, and this is definitely dating myself a little bit, it was Teen Titans versus X-Men,
Okay. Okay.
and then a few other and miscellaneous stuff. And I don't know. Like before that, I was already big into like Garfield and comics, Sunday comics, the comic strips every week, every weekday. It was like the one thing I look forward to more than anything. I collected like collections of Peanuts and Garfield
Peanuts
and
and
Far Side and Calvin and all that stuff. But then all of a sudden, this was like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to this. This is incredible. And I was hooked from then on. And
okay.
I slowly started getting to go to like I graduated to my own pull list a few like years later when I had the guts to go into a comic shop with my dad. But back then, and people still talk about this. I think it's gotten a ton better, and I know I can name like 10 comic shops that are so awesome with like newcomers. But back then, if you they weren't very friendly if A, you were young, like a kid, and B, if you didn't know anything about like the last 50 years of DC or Marvel
Right.
history.
Right.
So
I mean, it still
intimidating
depends
to
on the shop a little bit, but I agree that it's getting better. I mean, what I always used to say when I worked in a shop was that like comics is where all of the introverts get together and then try to be social, and sometimes they're better at it than others.
that's yes, that is well said. No, and then I just continued to collect, and um, boxes and boxes accumulating, and then actually my 40th birthday, which is in the rearview mirror at this point, someone stole my entire collection.
For your
They
birthday, that's a terrible birthday present.
Yeah. And it was like, about six or seven, maybe eight long boxes.
Okay.
And and it made like the local KTLA news and all this
Right.
other stuff. I mean, it was a horrible thing to get any notice for. And that was right
Right.
when I was writing my first comic. But
What was your first comic? Since I
Playground,
was stupid and didn't look it up.
Playground Attack of the Gurglebots. It was like a kid gets the powers of playground childhood games. I kind of wrote it for inspired by my son who was like 5 at the time, and that
Okay.
was like a all ages comic. A lot of fun, and I learned a lot about just kind of cutting my teeth on getting that comic created and everything.
So if you
So
were just starting to write comics in your 40s, tell me like where did you go from being comics fan to wait a minute, I want to try to write these. Were you
so I
already a
before
writer? Were you already
I was
yeah.
already writing a ton. Like, no, I guess, yeah. So I started writing these. I mean, because that was the first one that I was like writing comic scripts, like probably from like 35 on. And I had an amazing mentor, still do, Adam Beechin. He wrote Batgirl. He's written a ton of like scripts for different like Transformers cartoons, uh, Chuck the Truck. He's Lego movies, you name it. And
Right.
he like helped me, and I had like this, my first script I like kind of wrote with him, like was this thing with this amazing artist, Tony Gregory, who's done a bunch of things. It's just the pitch, I think maybe my pitching skills weren't quite ready with that one, but that was like, I learned a lot. And before that, no, I was writing a lot of sketch comedy shorts. I was big, like I lived
Okay.
in LA. I've been addicted to like long form and short form improv and sketch writing and short story writing for like forever. I was, mass like English was my jam in my like degrees and all that. So yes, writing and then just comic writing just became my main source of passion for the last
Okay.
15 years, I'd say.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Um you started where most people start with superheroes and Doctor Who type stuff. What I mean, like Huge Detective, and I promise we will get to it. Um, doesn't fall into that vein. It's way. It's definitely a even 3 issues in. I will say that it's one of those books that shows why comics are the near perfect medium. It would be really hard to tell visually. It would be or not visually, it would be really hard to tell in film, and it
Right.
would be nearly impossible to tell in prose. There's things that you need to be able to see, but also ways that it needs to be able to be made smaller or have the reader forced to infer rather than trying to, you can't effectively have, I mean, because like the example I'm going to use really quick, it's from the first issue. We'll spoil a little bit. Is like your kid, it takes a while for you to realize, oh, he's not a huge. He just thinks he is. Because the way
Yes.
you can set it up in the comic, it is able to feel, and it turns out that it's just the cops allowing him to feel that way to be able to interview him without him breaking down. But again, to it would be very, I'm not saying impossible, but it would be very hard to do that as well on film.
No,
Um,
you're
and you
100%
absolutely couldn't do it in prose because you'd
right.
have to tell it. Comics are that perfect medium. So, like, but they're also, and this will be the second time I bring this one up today, so I even have it nearby to show off. I've really Nate Powell did. It's actually from his adaptation of Lies My Teacher Told Me, but it was released ahead of time at the Nib. There was one panel of a comic that he did. Where did I put it? There we go. That he did about it was when the library censorship was going on. Um, but it's become kind of my guiding light in terms of comics. And I'll show it to you and then read it to the audience again. It says comics do have a built-in weakness. Creators and readers perpetually fight for the basic legitimacy of anything in comics form against both decades old stereotypes, dismissals, and today's attacks on their unique strengths in making other perspectives real and accessible. Comics are the most democratic mass storytelling medium. Um,
Yes.
and again, it's become like the guiding light, not because it was new to me. It was more, I went, oh, yes, that's what I've been saying on this podcast forever. Thank you, Nate. um, but so for even for most of us who love comics, when they're superhero comics, we think of them as kid stuff. I mean, the number of people who go through that late teen period, early college period where they drift away from comics because they discover girls or music or whatnot before coming back. So this is my long way of asking, tell me a comic or a few comics that were the ones that really opened your eyes and went, oh my God, I didn't know you could do that with a comic.
Oh man, no, I mean everything you just said, I couldn't agree with more. And I mean, yeah, like initially it was me just going towards the heroes that I liked. Then it was going towards the writers and the artists.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna, I'll start where I'm sure a lot of people have probably started, but I think it's a little later, but I'll go back as well. But first, I just in my early 20s, I would say, when I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you can do this. Like it gave like permission to so many ideas that I had to kind of just, but I felt like I had dammed up was Planetary.
Oh, yeah.
It
I
just,
mean, I hate that I don't like to talk about the writer anymore.
well,
I really hate that.
yes,
But John Cassaday did amazing art.
yes, John. Yeah, and forgive me for getting because it's so hard to keep track of everybody that's
No, no. I mean, and it just became harder because there's another writer that we all love to talk
yes,
about that it has become uncomfortable to talk about. Um, and it really causes a grappling between how do you balance great work versus not always great people,
right,
and add to that great collaborative work. And that's why I bring out John Cassaday's Planetary
yes.
because the other guy didn't do it alone.
No, 100%. And I'm not doing it alone with Huge Detective.
Right.
Magenta King, like it's such a collaboration with what he's able to do. Like to your what you were saying before about how what we have conveyed in this could not be done in other forms, and that is because we both love comics so much. We're both inspired also by manga. Like that's something that I've made a point of in the last
Oh yeah.
like 8 or 10 years. I've been really like, you know what? I got to get more into this, and I'm loving it now. Like at first, it felt like homework because I was so
Uh,
unfamiliar. But
and
now,
because you got to read backwards, only
well, yeah,
because
all
it's
that,
translating, you're not even reading backwards. You have to read the words right to left, left
yes,
to right across the page.
yes, and
Or, I'm sorry, left to right, right to left across the page.
right, right. No, and they say it activates another side of your brain.
Yeah, no, because it requires that much more work.
Yeah,
Comics already require both sides of your brain because you have to do some heavy lifting
yeah,
to combine the words and pictures. But when you have to then also focus on exactly how you're reading to pay attention to where,
right. No,
you know,
it's mind bending.
uh,
But then backing up behind like the other influences or just like Matt Kint's work is just
oh
something. Jeff
God,
Lemire,
I imagine I haven't gotten to talk to Matt Kent yet. Hopefully, um, but I imagine him with like one of those. Every time I reread Mind Management or Red Handed or
oh,
something like that, I imagine him with like one of those bulletin boards with red string pinned all
yes,
over to be able to keep track. This is what I'm doing on page 1 that will pay off on page 472. And this is what I'm doing.
that's what I mean. Like what he does with the storytelling is so brilliant, and just how like there's so many little things, little nuggets that are like laced throughout it. That like when he's doing like, because he has whole loads. You mentioned mind management of like, I'd say there's like a crime noir vibe to these worlds that
Oh
he's
yeah.
created. And then people like Lemire with Gideon Falls, like that's
Oh my
something that
God.
just like, and the panel experimentation, that's something I'm so big on. And so I mean I love comics so much that like when Magenta and I even talk about different things to do with like pages that I've written, like we want to be experimental with our choices of how we visualize. And
Yeah.
like in this, yeah, like the dynamic of like a huge and human lends to that because it's so hard to like fit everything on the page, but because you can't just be literal with how we're pacing this all out and how we're showing everything, it forces the imagination, both of Magenta and me, and how, like you point out, like how you figure out that Manny is not a huge, or then just how do you have Tamaki and Detective Giant on the same page and have that perspective still.
Right. And that leads me to it's time to talk huge detective. So start with the front counter pitch. You're working at a comic shop and selling this to somebody.
This is True Detective meets Roald Dahl's BFG,
Okay.
and with a heavy dose of Chinatown as far as
Okay.
the noir elements to it. And it's also, but well, and this was pointed out to me by Titan's editor in chief. Like, I guess this was in the back of like my brain because I was a fan in the 90s. It's also Alien Nation, if you remember
Okay.
that. I mean,
Yeah.
because it is,
Wasn't
it's
that
all,
that was Straczynski, wasn't it?
well, that was
Alien Nation.
oh, it might have been. I mean, it was a TV show. Or was it a movie?
Okay, I think no, I'm thinking Midnight Nation because I
Okay.
think comics first.
Right, right. So, but I mean,
It's just how my brain works.
but it's also, it's all kinds of like those, like relation. I wanted to get into a relationship with two groups of people who are maybe having to reconcile some major traumas. And that's what this human and huge dynamic is. But yes, to the quick pitch to somebody coming into the shop, do you like fantasy? Do you like noir? Do you want to see giants hanging out in a true detective world? Then this is your book.
Yeah, that's a good pitch, and I'll take it deeper, and also, I don't think saw it until I started looking at the pages again after we talked about Kint. You have that layered effect because on one level, it's the obvious murder mystery, but then you also have the missing huge case, and then you also have why does this kid think he's a huge? And what the hell is going on with his mom that he won't call mom? And who's that doctor that she's talking to? And I'm trying not to do too much spoilery here because it's only halfway through. We'll have you back for the spoilery. But again, every time you start to get your head around not even like the answer to a problem, but like this is the problem, there'll be something to go, oh, wait a minute, is this the primary problem or is that the primary problem? What is the purpose of this book? Is it all of them? Probably, but you know what I mean? And that's another thing
Yes.
that's just really hard. I mean, I like to call it messy in the most beautiful way. I found that most of my favorite fiction is messy in the most beautiful way. I have become one of my least favorite criticisms of fiction has become, well, but they did this and they didn't tie up that story end. And I'm like, yeah, no, life isn't that neat.
Right.
Yes, it had an effect, because you didn't tie this up, it didn't have a purpose. And it's like, yes, it did, because the main character still had to deal with it. It didn't wind up being the story that the author was telling you, but it affected what was going on for the character.
Right. No, and
Um,
I try to like keep things like the spider, as you mentioned, like the like what Matt Kint's like poster must look like, of just like all the different threads connecting this to that. Even though this is a 5 issue series, there's a lot of those threads. And I'm also hoping, Titan was nice enough to let me include all of my little case files at the end of
yeah.
the first 4 issues. and we do something different in issue 5 that I'm really excited about. And that comes out like months from now, but that wraps it up. But at the same time, are you going to feel like everything's completely wrapped? I hope not. I hope
Yeah.
you do leave satisfied with the main story, but wanting more.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's, I mean, I actually, I think I learned it when it's definitely become a greater thing in my life. But the first time that I really remember seriously thinking about that with a piece of fiction, most people don't know this book, but have you ever read Adam Langer's Crossing California?
No.
It's just a coming of age novel set in Rogers Park in Chicago in like the late
Huh.
70s, where I wasn't alive there, but I read it while I was at Loyola in Rogers Park. So like it had neighborhood landmarks, that sort of thing. And it's just a really good story about a couple of odd teenagers figuring out their lives. I mean, I almost wonder if more people would know it if it had been marketed as YA, but it wasn't. It was marketed as just straight fiction, and it fits as
Huh.
fiction. I mean, that's one of the things. Anytime I see somebody bashing YA, I'm sitting there going, you know, that what they really mean is women will like this, and it's not a pure romance novel.
Right. No, I think the whole
It's
YA
completely a
genre is
marketing thing.
right. Well, and it's kind of almost like movie ratings. They don't want to call anything R because they feel like they're shutting
Or
down like a
sometimes they do. I mean, one of my favorite movies is The Paper with Michael Keaton, and you know the scene in that where he's talking to the he's just lost the job at the Sentinel, and he's like, well, guess fucking what, I don't really fucking care because I don't live in the fucking world, I live in fucking New York City, so go fuck yourself. that was put that was put in the movie because they wanted the R rating,
Wow, I did not know that. That's a great. I love
because
that movie.
because
Okay.
otherwise it was going to wind up with a PG rating, and they knew that kids weren't going to want to go to it.
Right. Oh
Their
wow.
audience was adults, and they were afraid that if they didn't have an R rating, adults would think that it wasn't for them.
So that all right. I
Their
feel like you're
audience was
all
not adults because it's not appropriate for kids. It was not. It was adults because how many kids are that interested in how a newspaper works?
right. No, that's I did not know that. I got to go watch that again. I've been
Yeah.
on a deep dive of watching like a lot of 70s, 80s, early 80s movies. Well, Paper's a little later than that, isn't it? When did
That
that come
was
out?
90 something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, so I'm making my
Yeah.
way into the 90s, but I'm trying to go through like I've been finding some amazing inspiration from being like kind of like I just been on this huge, and actually it's a little bit touched on in Huge Detective, but I've been on a big Kurosawa
Oh, I
bender.
love Kurosawa.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'll admit,
Though I need to go do his non-samurai ones. I've done
yes.
all
Well,
the
okay.
samurai
Well,
ones, and I don't think I've done any of the non-samurai ones except for Dreams.
the number one, I would say for me, and it definitely did kind of influence some of the tone of Huge Detective, only the tone, but High Low.
That's high on my list, and I think it's on Max right now.
Yeah, it's so you
Yeah.
gotta. In fact, Spike Lee and Denzel Washington are doing a remake of that.
Okay. I think I heard that.
Yeah, but so yeah, as far as like the comic stuff, I mean, like, is where I want. I mean, because I am Magenta and I, we hope that people are gonna be like enjoying this so much that we have the chance because the world
To tell,
of
I mean, it's a
yeah,
world that whether you use the same characters or not, there's a million stories to tell. But we already have three characters that I know. There's no way that I'm not going to want to know more about them, even if I feel like this story is wrapped.
yes, and
You
I'm
know.
happy. I'm gonna be I'm happy to hear that you feel that way. Three issues in, and I
Oh, and
think
we got off track. What I forgot to say about the Adam Langer book is I finished with it, and I was really upset because I felt like the ending didn't wrap up the things that I wanted wrapped up.
hmm,
But then I thought to myself, so if he gave me 10 more pages, how would I feel? And I went, I'd want 10 more. I'd want 10 more. And then probably something new would happen in their life because they're like 19 and things change. And I suddenly realized that there was just no possible way that he was going to write that book in a way that completely satisfied me with where it ended because he did so well with the characters
Right.
that unless he took them from birth to death and took everybody else in their lives that I wound up caring about, at least from the time they met them to their deaths,
You can't, right.
you got to make
That's,
decisions.
and not everything can be, like the size of Dune.
Right. Right. Well, and even then he died before he finished.
Right. Right.
I mean, it is actually the advantage of shared playgrounds, but then there's not the same quality control. It becomes, so you have to have people that are willing to go, "Oh, I like these books, but I don't like those books." And that's okay. It's fine that they still exist, but we have trouble as human beings is doing that. It's like, "No, my Spider-Man is the Spider-Man. What the
Yeah.
hell are you doing with Spider-Man?"
No, I know. I couldn't agree with you more. What you just said there, I wish, I mean, I feel like that translates beyond comics. Like
Oh, absolutely.
it's okay for you to like this Green Lantern, this Spider-Man, but don't shit all over the other ones. I
Well, I
mean,
mean, Brian Bendis had a great quote. I think he said it a few times now. There's one question that he will not answer, and that's what's the least favorite of the books that he's written. And the reason he will not answer that question is he's like, the second I answer that, I'm going to have somebody come up and tell me it's their favorite. I've had so many people come to me with so many books that I didn't think that much of and tell me what it meant to them as they were having me sign it. I
that
am not going to shit on somebody's favorite book,
that's great advice.
particularly if it's one that I wrote.
Right.
I'm totally not going to shit on somebody's favorite book of mine.
No, it's funny you say that because gosh, Dad, you know, you're on my wavelength today because I feel that way. I mean, I think you're saying this too. Like, that's just the same, for music, movies, whatever. Like, I don't, and I'm trying to teach my son that. Like, I'll be playing something that I love. Like, I love like 90s hip hop, like A Tribe Called Quest. And he
Okay.
likes that. But then I'll pivot to something else and he'll say, oh, that song sucks. And I'm like, all right, there's a different way for you to say. I mean, you maybe it's not resonating with you, but
You can say, I think that song sucks. If you need to keep sucks, because
right,
sometimes when you're a certain age, you got to be able to use that harsh language,
that's
Dad.
true. That's
But still, I think that song sucks.
right. But I
I
mean, to
teach
the
high
bigger,
school in case you had it.
oh, yeah, you get it. I mean, you totally get it. I mean, that's to the bigger point. It's
They're
like,
shocked when we know their music.
yeah, oh gosh,
Even when it was our music, they're shocked when we know their music. They're like, "How do you
no,
know that?" And I'm like, "Because I went to a concert when I was in high school."
ah, ah. Oh my gosh, so true, so true. And that's the other. I mean, just I feel like getting people to. I mean, well, I don't know. Like right now, we're in an interesting time in so many different ways that I feel it's more important than ever the idea of empathy. But at the same
Yes.
time, it seems like that idea, culturally speaking, is getting beat up, which really makes me sad.
It's
Um,
one of those things. I mean, I talked briefly off the air about how it's been a rough few months for me, and it's one of those things that because historically I have been the guy that sees the positive, that keeps the hope. One of the things I remembered that's got me doing better is we can choose hope. We don't actually have to have evidence. But the other thing that just struck me now, so I'm thinking out loud a little bit. I don't know that empathy is lacking in the way that we think it is. I think that if we really look at the difference that social media causes, we love to talk about stuff on the surface. We love to project it all on the kids, and more, I'm convinced that social media actually has way more effect on the people who didn't grow up with it than the people who did. Um, Kind of like you and I aren't affected by TV the way every
I see.
generation likes to project the new scary technology is dangerous to the kids. It's not dangerous to the kids. It's dangerous to you, but you don't feel comfortable saying I'm scared. You have to
Right.
say we can't scare our children. Even while your
That's
children are going uh I mean every time I hear about cyberbullying, and I'm not saying cyberbullying doesn't happen, right? But did you ever get stuffed into the locker? I got stuffed into a locker. You know
I
what I
got
haven't
bullied.
seen lately? Anybody stuffed into lockers. You know the
Right.
difference between being stuffed into a locker and getting bullied on social media? The smart kids go, "Oh, this sucks. They suck. Block."
Right. Right. No, no,
And I'm not
no, that's
saying that there's no effect. I'm not trying to downplay it, but it's not actually new behavior. It's a new medium. And where I'm going with the empathy thing is I think people are still very good at being empathetic to their neighbors. There's huge amounts of data that the best way to actually change somebody's mind on abortion rights, the best way to actually change somebody's mind on trans rights, the best way to actually is to have them sit down and have a conversation with somebody who has experienced the other side.
right. Right. Well
Social
said.
media makes it so it's TV. Even when even when what's being expressed is real, even when what's being expressed is heartfelt and whatnot, it can be received as entertainment. You're not automatically empathetic with Lassie.
Right. Right.
That literally that's new. So it's but I wonder if the issue with empathy is less that we don't have it and more that we have more places that it's required that we haven't wrapped our heads around yet.
I know that's yeah, that the way you kind of framed it makes a lot of sense. And I think back to like just comics and storytelling, it's that's even everybody still agrees like the characters that they are most interested in are the ones that they do care about. They don't
Right.
have to like them, but they
But
have
they
to
have to care
care.
about them. Mhm.
Yes. And that, like with what Magenta, the way he conveys like Tamaki's expressions, like she's like battling an addiction. And Manny, yeah, I mean, he may or may not be criminally involved, but he's also dealing with his own schizophrenia and how
Well,
that's
and
something.
definitely some really I'm really, I mean, as somebody who's dealt with all sorts of mental health stuff on my own, somebody who works in special education, his mom's creepy.
Yes.
I'm
No,
really deeply concerned by that relationship.
as you
That would
should
be
be.
like a DCFS flag if I saw.
As you should be. No, my wife, LAUSD, teaches kids with different kinds of learning challenges and whatnot. I mean, they're all like kind of, well, yeah, it's her. I applaud her every day. What she does, it's incredible. And in some small ways, like she like hearing about her day in and day out, like it has heightened my awareness and
Yeah.
sensitivity to like these kinds of characters. And I wanted to be very careful with a character like Manny. I don't want stereotypes about what Manny's differences are. And I wanted to, it's creating a character like him it was kind of a special thing for me because I know people that have different challenges like Manny, but I also knew I wanted to have him be someone. Yeah, I mean his mother, that relationship, and the obvious psychological abuse that may or may not be present or will be revealed more later.
Right.
It's there, but we're also going to hear about Mrs. Stubbs a bit more in issue 4 and 5, especially and like all these characters have heaps of trauma because of the
Yeah.
Omega event, even if they weren't
Right.
like alive then. And I guess that also circles back to what we were just talking about with empathy, and you were bringing up very well how maybe it's not the kids that are like the ones that are being uh, toxified by social media, but the adults that are afraid of it. Just like in the Omega event, Manny, he wasn't alive when the Huge were coming around gobbling up humans.
Right.
So it's like Tamaki, it's Stubbs, it's Giant. They're the ones dealing with that trauma, that PTSD of what was happening then and what the world
I
is
mean,
now.
yeah, and for that matter, I mean, you're going to have a way different human trauma versus huge trauma is going to be way different because the huge were asleep. They don't know what it
Right,
was like for humans to rule the world.
right.
And human, of course, even the most empathetic human towards a huge, their world completely changed when these things appeared or reappeared from. Um, yeah, no, it's something I think about a lot because while it's not talked about much, um, this is a nation built on trauma, completely built on trauma.
Yep.
You're a little bit older than me, but I think we still are among the first generation that was more likely than not to not either go to war or have friends that went to war in the United. I mean, because you go from
Right.
Revolution, 1812, Civil War. I mean, you really don't have a time where most of the men are either directly off fighting or three of their friends are.
You're right.
As much as we've had the forever war during our life, it's a completely volunteer army. It's a more technological army. There's certainly communities that have a lot of people, because they tend to center around bases or whatnot. Um, but it's not an automatic that you just know somebody who was in Afghanistan or know somebody. Hell, I have met as many people who were overseas for the forever war through doing this podcast than I did before because I knew one person one person who'd actually been deployed in combat before doing this podcast, and I've had both Tom King and Spencer Ackerman on this podcast.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had the one that was in Iraq as a CIA agent and the one that was all over the place as a journalist. Um, and I'm not certain that there haven't been more. But that's just because I grew up in a affluent white community. And
Right.
guess what? For the most part, affluent white kids don't have to go to war anymore. I'm not trying to make light of that. It's just the way it is. You know,
Yeah.
our military is currently almost exclusively made out of people who don't have a better financial option, um, for good or bad. But that changes how we look at it. But it also doesn't completely get rid of the trauma because our parents have it. And then what our kids have that some of us understand and some of us don't. I think part of it is because it seems so much smaller than war. And part of it is that we didn't start drilling for it until recently, is the mass shooter trauma.
Yes, that, and I'll say similarly, and it's when I wrote the bulk of this, um, COVID,
Yeah.
just being like isolated and stuck,
Though that's
every.
another thing that I think the kids actually I mean, as an educator, I'm sometimes the unpopular one in the room where I'm the one going, is that our kids' problem or is that an us problem? Because again, I felt like the kids actually adapted. I mean, one of the things that pisses me off about education coverage since COVID, yes, we lost some things. Yes, we're catching up on some things. But you know what? I guarantee they gained some things.
Right,
And more
right.
importantly, if we had gone into it with rather than, oh no, we can't keep them alive because we need to keep their math scores up, and gone, okay, Education is going to be different for a couple of years. How can we maximize their learning, even if it's different types of learning?
Right, right.
I mean,
No,
if
that's a good
anything,
point.
I feel like the kids I see right now are more empathetic towards each other.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, out
They're
here, I
less
mean,
worldly. They have, at least the kids I'm around are less worldly.
right.
The just pre-COVID kids were, I can't wait for that group of kids to be running the world. And I really hope that this current group of kids becomes more worldly before they show up because they're way more.
Right.
But that's the thing is like almost everything has pros and cons, you know.
No, no, you're right. I mean, yeah, I could see the positives. I guess I also think like that whole time for everybody definitely has stuck with us. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe the word isn't trauma, but it's definitely
No,
like,
no, trauma's definitely the word.
okay,
Didn't mean to take that
all
away.
right, okay,
There's a lot of trauma there. I just it's weird, and again, it's the differences in the way people handle trauma. You
well, and
know,
that's I guess back that circles back to like where the inspiration for Huge. I mean,
right.
I wouldn't have that as the elevator pitch in the comic book store. Like it's about
Well,
it's about the
it depends on how well you know your customers.
well,
It's how I used to sell Tom King to people who didn't think they liked superheroes. Number of people
good
I
point.
got reading Batman who'd never read a Superman comic because Tom King injected like emotion into
That's a good
it.
point. That's a good point. Well, back to another something you brought up early on, like other like how like visually, like oh my God, I can't believe this is how you can do it. Frank Quitely for me, like 20
Oh,
plus years ago, when I first opened his pages, I think my first experience with him was he did Flex Mentallo, right?
I think so. Let me go look it up. I'll ask my friend Google. I'm a big Frank Quitely fan, but
I know
I
Grant
don't know
Morrison
him.
wrote that. I don't know if
Yeah. I'm pretty certain he did. I mean, going back to that guy that he did All Star Superman with
oh yeah, that
Morrison. Yes, he did
yes.
Flex Mantello. He did We Three.
That That's right. Those two books, Flex in particular, as far as I can't believe the combination of Morrison's storytelling and how just mind bending it was, and how Quitely's just visuals. That is
Oh, he
something that
did
is
New X-Men with him too. He did a lot of
yes,
work with Morrison.
his style is something that also brought me to Magenta in some ways. Like when I saw Magenta's work in Dark Horse's Kaiju Jenny Zero, he did this
Okay.
comic called Jenny. That's where I first met air quotes Magenta, and I reached out to him and like during like the pandemic, and he like got back to me. He's like, "Let me hear your pitch," because he didn't know who I was, and I only had like a couple other books under my belt at that point and he loved it, and that was what the beginning of our relationship with this. And um, I guess it just it's been a really important journey. In fact, I'll be talking to Magenta later today. We have this new project we're cooking up with this other artist that we're really excited about. We're gonna have some hopefully some cool things to say about it in a few months.
Well, I'll say
Um,
right now that I love talking to creative teams. So if you enjoyed being here, drop that to Magenta.
oh yeah,
Maybe we can get together and have a nice spoilery conversation of Huge Detective and a less spoilery conversation of whatever this new project that you'll be able to talk about in a few months is.
that would be amazing. Oh, he would love
um,
that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I know we're running up against your time. I don't want you to be late to pick up your kids. I do have one like my must ask final question. Tell
Yes.
me something you love, preferably a comic, but I don't require it. Sometimes people will give me music or movies or regular books, but some piece of art, preferably storytelling art, something that you love that not enough other people have experienced and you need them to so that you have more people to talk to about it.
Oh, wow. I love this question. Okay. Um, I would
Yeah, it's got to be
say
more than something you love. It's got to be that thing it's not, and it doesn't have to be underrated because it might be highly rated and you just don't know anybody that likes to watch it, you know.
okay.
I like to have, the last time Nate Powell was on, he told me the new Jonathan Hickman X-Men books because, there aren't a lot of people in the indie comics crowd reading X-Men.
Right, right. I would say, oh, do I have it here? Oh shoot, I don't have it in here. There's this new manga. It's just a trilogy, and it's like inside baseball of comics, basically. And I just read the first two books. The third one's sitting on my shelf. I gotta like find it here to tell you what the heck I'm talking about here.
I'm
Um,
already intrigued.
it's so beautiful, and um, oh come on, where? Oh, there it is. It is by Matsumoto, Tokyo These Days.
Oh, I have read the first volume. It's
It
so good.
so good, and the pacing and just the story, the
I mean,
visual
I love
story.
Matsumoto, period. But yeah, I,
It's
I, I picked up the
more
first.
people, even if if you've never read a book of manga but you love comics,
Yeah,
you should be reading
yeah,
this. If you
yeah,
write comics or draw comics or are a podcaster in the world of comics, but you've never read manga, you should be reading this
yeah,
because it is a love letter to just the art form. It's lyrical, it's poetry, it's
yeah,
visual poetry.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, I've only grabbed the first volume so far. Grabbed it when it came out, and I read a lot of comics in case you hadn't noticed. So the other ones just haven't fit into the schedule yet. But and I'd read some Matsumoto before. Um, so I had high expectations anyway, and was still blown away. This is already on my short list of you've never read manga, try this out.
Yeah.
So that's such a great call. Let me take us out, and then we'll talk for a second before I throw you off to see your kids. For Adam Rose, this has been 22 Panels. We will see you after the next page.
Hey guys, this is Tyler from 22 Panels. I'm here to tell you all about our Patreon. If you enjoy this show, please consider donating to our Patreon to keep this show going. We have many different tiers, all different levels to help you decide what's right for you. Okay, so get on out there to patreon.com/22panelspodcast.